Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Friday morning. So many things going on. Sure, it's a football Friday. We got a rivalry game tomorrow night. Also had the Jazz playing last night. They get beat in Milwaukee. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard combining for 65 points. When those two guys both go over 30, the odds of the Bucks winning are pretty good. And the Jazz just sunk under it. Actually led at halftime, but just a boatload of third-quarter turnovers. It got pretty ugly there, and they get beat. Meanwhile, the Utah Hockey Club wins. They beat St. Louis 4-2. Nice road win. For more, let's get the post-game wrap from Adrian Denny.
DJ and PK, a big 4-2 win for the Utah Hockey Club on Thursday night in St. Louis. They improved to 6-5-3 on the season in Game 3 of their 4-game road trip. And they got the scoring started early. 18 seconds into the contest. Fastest goal to start a game so far this year in the National Hockey League came off of the stick of Michael Kesselring.
St. Louis just 1 point ahead of Utah in the standings as we sit right now. Up through center, there's a St. Louis native. Keller right in front. Kesselring scores! 18 seconds in, Keller finds Michael Kesselring.
St. Louis had come back and tie us at 1, and then Utah in the second period, they had to kill 3 minutes shorthanded on a Maverick Lamoureux kneeing major. They ended up doing just that and allowing just 2 shots to St. Louis in the second period. Outshot them 31-15 in the game, and they'd reclaim the lead back. Matias Michelli, his third goal in 5 games late in the second.
And so it was cleared out by St. Louis. Cooley, hungry for more, drops it back for Gunther. Gunther on this near side, and now Michelli, a wrist shot, score!
And again, St. Louis would tie us up at 2, but again, Utah would get the lead back. Under 4 minutes left to go in the game. Team leading 7th of the year from Dylan Gunther.
Gunther steals it. Here come the kids. Gunther and Cooley. Gunther delays across, and they score! Dylan Gunther gets it in, and it's back to a 3-2 lead for Utah.
And with an empty net on the other end, Jack McBain found it to give Utah their first 2-goal lead of the night and their second empty netter of the year.
Hayden against Radek Faksa, and Hayden wins it back. Utah can milk some clock here. It's thrown towards the empty net by McBain. He scores! Jack McBain puts the icing on the cake.
It's a big win for the Utah Hockey Club, though. Have a chance on Saturday night in Nashville to make it 5 of a possible 8 points. They're 1-1-1 so far on a really tough trip, which has taken them from Vegas to Winnipeg to St. Louis. It'll be Nashville to wrap up the trip before we return home on Wednesday to take on Carolina. Big win for the Utah Hockey Club. Their top 4 scorers all got at least a point in the game, and Clayton Keller in his return to his hometown of St. Louis, Nick Schmaltz, Dylan Gunther, and Logan Cooley. Connor Ingram picking up his 6th win of the year for Utah between the pipes, now 6-2-3. So you look at this one, Utah did just about everything the way they wanted to, and looking back at Tuesday's game in Winnipeg, a couple things to touch up on, and certainly did on this Thursday night in St. Louis against a division rival. Utah with the win in regulation, seesawed ahead of the Blues as St. Louis falls to 7-7, and what that does is still early, but every point matters, puts Utah back in that second wildcard spot in the Western Conference. After the game, we heard what it all meant from head coach Andre Tourigny.
Have you seen tangible changes in Kessering's game in the time he was put on that first pair to now?
No. I like this start. The reason why he got there is because he was playing well. I think tonight he had a really strong game. Cass is a question of consistency for him. Tonight it was a good one.
What did you like about the willingness, I guess, to take shots?
Well, it's a longer answer than the question is, because we're coming from a mentality of going with a lot of quality, which we were last year. I will say 28 or 27 in terms of shot attempts. Now we're top 10. So everybody talk about us not taking shot. Well, there's only, let's say, 10 teams ahead of us in the league, so we're taking some shots. Having that said, we don't hit the net enough. We're looking to pick the corner a little bit too much, that kind of stuff. That doesn't, the shot you don't hit the net doesn't generate a rebound. It doesn't generate this broken play or whatever. So there's a lot to say about that in terms of we need to, at some point, settle for maybe a lesser quality shot than just hit the net. There's as well not having the mentality when we are in the prime area to look for something better. Just having the killer instinct. If I get the puck inside here, I want to shoot, I want to score. Instead of, I'm looking for the next play. Oh, there's nothing. Okay, now we'll shoot. Well, it's not the same shot. It's not the same thing. I think we need to have more the killer instinct when we get in the dirty area. But the narrative of the number of shots, I'm not all in on that. I think, yes, we can take more. Yes, we need to hit the net more. But I think we're making progress.
Switch the top two lines of it tonight. Just what was that decision?
We're trying to shake up a little bit offensively. We're not generating, so try something different.
What kind of confidence does that goal for Gunther kind of give him moving forward to step up and late in the game like that?
Yeah, I think Gunnar all his life he's been a clutch player, score big goals and stuff like that. What I will say tonight, I will plug that right there. It's how good what Boogie is like. If I could have, I made the joke out there, if I could have made it like on the PlayStation and take the option and keep those guys on the ice for 60 minutes, they will have played 60 minutes. They were unbelievable. They grind, they work, they managed the puck well, they had the right thought process. They were unbelievable for us.
So busy sports day Saturday here along the Wasatch Front. The Utah Hockey Club, excited to be a part of it. From the road, a 6 p.m. face-off from Nashville. We'll be on the air here inside our Mountain Blue studios at Delta Center at 5 p.m., and you can catch Saturday night's game over on KSL News Radio. It'll be on the FM side. We'll be on KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM on Saturday. That's where you can catch us as the Utah Hockey Club wraps up the trip. DJ and PK, thanks as always for having me. We'll get back to our rivalry talk, I'm sure, with BYU and Utah, and enjoy the Holy War. And I'll be back with you Monday morning recapping the trip and recapping everything that happened in Nashville on Saturday night as well.
A win for the Utah Hockey Club. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to turn our focus to college football. Barry Tramel joining us next to talk Big 12 football. How close is BYU to punching their ticket in the Big 12 title game? And did the Big 12, did they get a fair shake from the playoff committee, or did they get undersold? We'll talk with Barry coming up next, and then former BYU quarterback John Beck after that. Stay with us. DJ and PK, proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. DJ PK, and we're joined once again by sports columnist for the Tulsa World, Barry Tramel. Barry, good morning.
Hey, guys. Do I have you?
Yeah, we're here, finally.
We good.
Yak made it happen. Barry, I feel bad for you, Barry. I was clicking around 2 commercial breaks ago, and I saw winter storm warnings. Frozen fog in New Mexico, 11 inches of snow in Oklahoma. Don't travel, they say. And I wondered if Barry Tramel had to go to a football game, and I thought, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State aren't very good. He probably didn't have to go anywhere.
Well, we do have some severe weather in Oklahoma. It's out in the Panhandle, which is... It's not close. The edge of the Oklahoma Panhandle is not closer to Utah than it is to, say, Oklahoma City, but it's not that much of a difference. So it's a long way from us. It's about 67 degrees here. It's going to rain some, but we're going to be fine. Other than our football teams stink.
Well, Barry, I mean, the same people who complain about the weather, they're the same people in most cases that are negative and voicing their opinion are the same ones that can't pay their own bills. They're not taking care of themselves. They're not taking care of their own family. They're not taking care of their own job, but they have an obligation to speak out and complain about others because it makes them feel better. But in the end, when they go to bed at night, they're the same failure they were before if they said anything negative about anybody else.
Well, I have to say to you what Jerry said to George: quit fooling around. Quit fooling around. Yeah, if you're going to have a bad football team, at least be interesting. And Mike Gundy is nothing if not interesting. So, I don't know. It's been a fun week here. We got three major college teams in the state, and we don't know if any of them are going to keep their coach. So, 3 coaching searches might short circuit all of it.
Oh yeah, for sure. One is bad enough.
BYU and Utah. I assume they've had a year or two in 100 years where they broke in a new coach in the same year.
Yes.
Does that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle Whittingham and Bronco Mendenhall, and actually Brent Guy up at Utah State.
Yeah. An OSU guy, Brent Guy.
Yeah, they all came in the same year. And I did.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, did Weber have one? Was Weber brand new too?
I don't know about Weber State.
Yeah. But those 3 all came in the same year.
Well,
and only one of them remains.
Yeah,
because it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, literally 20.
I'm thinking Whittingham. He picked his successor and has said he's not going to coach that much longer. And I kept thinking Gundy would outlast him, but heck, I don't know anymore. I don't know.
The playoff committee made its first rankings, and it looked a lot like the AP Top 25, so anybody says the media poll doesn't matter, well, kind of looks like it does, and it didn't look like good news for the Big 12. Do you think it's more about the individual schools and their brands? Do you think the Big 12 brand as a whole, it's a combination of the two? Why did the Big 12 not fare better? Because the Cougars are behind the undefeated teams, and Iowa State's behind the one-loss teams.
Yeah, and the Cougars are behind some one-loss teams.
Mm-hmm. Iowa State's behind some two-loss teams.
I mean, I'd like for the person to come and explain to me why Brigham Young is behind Penn State. I would like somebody to explain that to me. I don't think there's an irrational reason for it, much less a rational reason. It was Big Ten. I thought it was Big Ten Love Fest.
Yeah.
4 of the top 8, or I think is what it was. And, that Penn State thing, that's an odd one. I don't know what's going on there. I like to think that it might sort itself out, but we'll see. I can tell you, Greg Sankey's not happy with the SEC, although Texas is sort of in the Penn State family of good treatment. They haven't done much, and they're 5th, I think they were. But yeah, that's what stuck out to me was the Big Ten love. I didn't get that at all. I sure was hoping K-State and Iowa State would pull those games out Saturday night, because if you got 3, pushing there around 10 or 11, 12, wherever, and hopefully somebody like Brigham Young up a lot higher than that, well then, I think it fortifies the conference's prestige. But yeah, that was a total lack of respect for the Big 12, I thought, Tuesday night.
I think it all boils down to, when we get there next month, is how many teams go from each conference. And if there's 4 from the others and only 1 from the Big 12, what's the fallout? What does your mark do? What does it mean in terms of recruiting and all this stuff that goes into making your program better? Because to me, if there's 4 versus 1, that's a disaster.
Yeah, it's not good at all, especially if you got some deserving. Now, a lot of recruits don't pay a lot of attention to who's deserving, who's not. But if the Big 12 didn't deserve, Brigham Young was 9-0, they 9-0 or 8-0, whatever they are. If Brigham Young was unbeaten and they'd won at SMU, and SMU was typical SMU, 4-4 in the American Conference or something.
Right.
Well, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if you made a list of the 4 or 5 best wins in college football right now, Brigham Young's on the list.
Agreed.
Going to Dallas and winning. So, and then beating K-State. They clearly like dominance. That's why they got Indiana so high. They've beaten Broken Arrow High School and Provo West, and everybody's fired up about it because they're winning by 60 points.
Whoop-de-doo.
But if Brigham Young didn't have that win or those 2 wins on the resume, if Iowa State was still unbeaten and they were 9th or 10th, whatever, I could sort of get it. But not BYU. I mean, I thought that was a total rip job. I really did. And you're right. And you're right about the fallout. It's going to hurt in recruiting. The good news is recruiting is not as important. Recruiting high school kids is not as important. I assume the portal guys would be affected by that, although they are probably more affected by, the number of zeros on the left side of the decimal point.
Yeah.
More so than, what the BCS /CFP / Bowl of Iron, whatever the current playoff situation is doing.
Do you have a vibe for the BYU-Utah game? The Utes have lost 4 in a row. I know the Ute fans saying Kyle's great when things have gone wrong, but that's what we said after 2 and 3 losses. The difference is a bye week. Maybe somehow that helps. BYU had one too, so that's even.
Well, Utah doesn't seem to have any offense no matter what's going on. So massive advantage for BYU. I think Utah's defense has been exemplary. I do my own efficiency ratings for the Big 12, and the Utes have the number 1 defense in my ratings right now. They passed Iowa State after Saturday, and yet they're down there near the bottom at 1-4 in the conference. They just can't score enough. And it seems like BYU is going to score enough to win. So, I mean, it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. The one thing I will say about this game is, and you guys have a significant power in the greater Salt Lake area, can we get the teams to stop both wearing red and blue? Do people like that in the state of Utah?
Yeah, I think they do. I like it when USC and UCLA do it too. I think it looks good. You want one team to wear white. That's what you're saying, huh?
That's what I'm saying. And here's the deal: it's not USC UCLA because the Bruins wore pastel.
Yeah, pastel.
It was light versus dark.
Right, lightness versus dark. That's what we have at BYU and Utah in a way.
Oh, nice. I see what you did there. Very nice.
BYU and Utah, they got a beautiful red, they got a beautiful blue, but neither one is light.
Make that happen, DJ. You're the most powerful media guy here.
Let me text Kyle and Kalani.
I'd go to Governor Cox.
I don't have his cell.
Does USC and UCLA still do it? I don't even know. I hadn't watched that game in years.
I think they do. We can check in a couple weeks. They're 3 weeks away.
Are they happy with the 9:15? Or I guess it's 8:15 your time.
No.
Are they happy with the late kickoff?
No one's happy with that. The weather's gotten colder.
November.
Yeah, it's November. The weather's cold.
This isn't Phoenix here.
Yeah, but you got the whole window to yourself. Everybody in America will be watching.
Unless they've gone to bed.
Well, I don't know. The diehards will watch. I mean, last week it was the craziest thing of all time. The latest college football game to kick off was 7 p.m. Central.
I couldn't believe it. I figured they were just trying to get out of the way of Game 7 of the World Series. What other explanation is there? What are they doing?
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. We got the last game going was Iowa State, Texas Tech, I think. I think that was the last game to finish.
Yeah.
It was the dangest thing.
I know. I'm used to watching football 11:30 at night on Saturday.
Yeah. Now, we were lucky. We had a late Thunder game that night playing out at the Clippers. So, I mean, I came home from my game and, at midnight I'm still able to watch basketball. But I was wanting some college football. But everybody in America will get that this week with BYU, Utah. I think it'll be great.
And then next week, the Utes go to Colorado, and it's 10 a.m. Mountain Time start. So they go from the latest to the earliest.
Well, that's almost like then. That's almost like playing it a day early.
Yeah, it reminds me. I worked in California when newspapers were something, and we had 5 editions, and I'd work desk a 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift on a Tuesday. Then I'd have off on Wednesday, and then I'd have to be in the office at 7 a.m. on Thursday. Because we had 5 different editions we put out. It's just crazy to go from 8:30 at night to 10 a.m. But that's what they're going to have to do. And I'm wondering, what is your level of faith in Colorado? Because they've got a shot, certainly, to get to Arlington minimum, maybe even win it.
Well, I've got a pretty high opinion of them because their defense seems to be pretty good. I mean, everybody gets fired up about Sanders and all that, but Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
But, man, that defense it shows up every week. So that's what impresses me about Deion's team is he still can't run the ball, but their defense is good. And then they got a quarterback who, probably the best in the conference, one of the best in the nation. So I think Colorado's legit. Now, they got a tough game Saturday down in Lubbock.
Yeah.
Has BYU been to Lubbock yet in the conference?
No.
Okay, well, it's a crazy place. I mean, they throw tortillas, and they're probably the most uncouth fans. Everybody thought West Virginia was going to be, but no. Tech has that. They've got that title.
Uncouth.
So it's not a very, what would we call, sophisticated crowd. So funny things can happen. It's a hard place to play. Bob Stoops, some really good Bob Stoops teams went down there, and I think he lost 3 straight in Lubbock in 05, 07, 09. But anyway, it's a tough place to play, so Colorado might not get out of there. And if, a couple things happen, now I think if BYU can, win Saturday, and BYU's not far from sort of saying, hey, one of the spots is taken.
Right.
But that other spot could be a horse race for a whole bunch of people.
You like anybody more than anybody else? Or it really is a horse race? They're 10 wide at the top of the stretch at Churchill Downs.
I like I still like Iowa State. And I did like Kansas State, but I don't, Houston's not very good at all. I think you can make the case the best coach in the conference is Willie Fritz. I watched Houston live back in September, and they were pitiful. I mean, their defense isn't bad, but their offense is it was garbage. And now they're 3-3 in the Big 12. They won at TCU, and they beat K-State, and can't remember who else they beat. But, I mean, he's a really solid coach. He's going to be tough. He's going to be a tough out. But I still think Iowa State's defense is going to keep them in every game. But if Colorado wins in Lubbock, I'd probably have to change that.
Yeah.
And say Colorado might be the favorite to get to Arlington and join BYU there.
You said that what you said about Houston, you went to Tempe last year and said the same thing about the Devils because Oklahoma State went there, and I remember you said you went to that game.
Yeah, and they were terrible.
Right.
But Dillingham's done a nice job. They're pretty good. Now, they're not great.
No, but BYU's got to go there in 2 weeks.
Yeah, everybody looks good when you're playing OSU's defense. So, but, if you look at the conference, I mean, it's crazy. Houston, let's see, Arizona State, Cincinnati, and Houston were the 3 bottom teams in the preseason. People saying they were all going terrible, couldn't win any game unless they're playing each other. And now, I mean, Houston's 3-3, Arizona State's 3-2, Cincinnati's 3-2 or 4-2, whatever they are. And all of them have pretty good teams. So the preseason prognostications are out the window.
Big time. Maybe more so, never more so.
Yeah, and it's been that way in the Big 12 for a few years. We've had surprise teams in Arlington every year. But this year it's going to be really surprising. was BYU 11th, I think, in the preseason.
13th?
I think they were they 13th?
13th,
Oh, great.
yeah.
Hey. Well, I mean, it just shows you. We could have a 13 versus 11 in Arlington, which would be really cool, especially if BYU. I just hope BYU. No offense to the Utes, it'd be great for the Big 12 if BYU could run the table. And I think a key thing is to get that 6 seed. Get the 3 seed in the playoff rankings, because the 4 seed is probably going to have to play Ohio State or Oregon in the first round, and that'll be a tough one. But if you get somebody below that,
you're saying there's a chance.
Be as tough. I mean, if BYU plays, I don't know, Texas. If BYU plays, who else? Tennessee. Heaven forbid the committee would let BYU play Penn State. That would be a blessing to play the Nittanies. But if I think you could have a chance to win that game, go to the national semifinals. So you want to avoid the 4 seed, and if BYU can keep having success, they got a shot to do that.
If somebody beats Miami.
Yeah, and I think somebody will. That's another thing I don't understand. Somebody explain to me why Miami's ahead of BYU.
Haven't played any ranked teams yet. Duke is the best.
And they haven't been all that
6-3.
dominant. They had three close calls. I mean, Cal and Louisville and whoever else. I can't remember the other one.
Virginia Tech.
Yeah, but they've been not any better. They haven't been dominant, and they don't have any great wins, and yet, I mean, it looks to me like the committee's looking at the rankings from 1986 and saying let's base all this on when Joe Paterno was riding high.
Yeah.
So, that's my problem with the committee Tuesday was just I don't know that they were paying attention to what's been going on this season.
Barry, we'll leave it right there. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the late night football from Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. I'd like to come to a Holy War some year.
We'll be here.
I'll try to figure that out. I don't know how it would ever happen, but maybe I can figure it out. See you guys.
There's Barry Tramel. Hey, catch 1st and 12 Sundays from 10 to noon on The Zone. It's brought to you by Macy's Grocery Store. Get the freshest fruits and vegetables from local farms and your favorite local brands. Macy's, happy shopping. Former BYU quarterback John Beck, next. John Beck joins us now, former BYU quarterback. John, good morning.
Hi, good morning, guys. How are you guys doing?
Doing well this time of year, which I guess now is November, not September. So we're back to November games. Did all the memories start come flooding back? People start calling you, wanting to talk about the old days?
It always happens when the BYU-Utah game comes up. It's awesome that the game's back in conference play. I think it's really cool. But, yeah, there's been a lot of videos and memes and different things sent over the last couple of weeks and reminders of the game and, different articles that are done with different teammates and whatnot. So, it's cool memory. Can't believe it's that time of year again, and just excited for the game this weekend.
Yeah, what do you think is crazier, the fact that you have to talk about it every year or that you're talking about it to the same guys, DJ and myself, every year?
I know. It's kind of funny. Here's the craziest part is my wife, that game in 2006, was pregnant with our oldest son. And to think now he's coming up on 18 years old and all these things that have happened in his life, it just kind of blows me away that, like, man, that game was a lifetime ago, for my son and his entire life. And yet there's so many memories that still, stay pretty firm in my mind of that experience and the things leading up to it and afterwards. And yeah, I mean, even it's crazy. How many years have we done this where we're on on the radio talking about that game?
What was the play called? Do you remember? What was the design of it?
Yeah, it was ace flip 59, and we kind of were anticipating that we might get an all-out zero blitz. And just because of some previous things, kind of like in the back of my head, I kind of also thought, well, Kyle always kind of tries these things every year, and some years he drops everybody out. Some years he's bringing different pressures, and so we kind of anticipated like we may be able to get somebody on an island here versus cover zero. Here's where the ball might go, but as we ran out to the field, you can see like I think the TV captures it. Me and Johnny talking of like what happens if we don't get what we anticipate, and what happens if they do drop everybody out, and it is crazy. I don't think anybody's asked me that question for a long time. I'm surprised that thing. I mean, I guess it's still in there with all the other stuff of exactly what that play call was.
That was the same defense that you saw on the last play of the game the prior year, right? When you barely missed on a connection in the end zone, it fell incomplete in the north end in overtime?
Yeah, similar. Like a little added difference was they added the linebacker when I started moving. So the year before, they only brought D linemen, and I tried to buy time thinking I'm going to buy as much time as I can until one of these D linemen get close. And the following year in 2006, similarly, but then they added on a linebacker as I kind of moved out of the pocket to the left. And I don't remember his name anymore, but I just remember feeling him come running at me, and then I got to escape back to the right. But similar in terms of we're going to overload the number of bodies that we drop based off of the number of bodies that you get to get out on a pass route. The most guys you can get out on a pass is going to be 5. And so when a defense drops 8, 9 guys into coverage, it's really difficult, especially to throw something on time or in rhythm.
At what point did you see Johnny?
Oh, man, as I was escaping to the right, he had made his way to the other side, to that left side. And as I was running right, I could just pick up in my vision the remaining Ute defenders starting to move right with me, and me feeling this like, oh my gosh, like as they can, like if they continue to move right with me, he's going to clear them. And that sounds like that was like a thought out process. That all happened in just like split seconds.
Yeah.
And then, but it was just that like, I think after the game, I just kind of said that turned into a backyard playground type play where those are some of the things that like, from just playing ball, you realize, oh my gosh, like this could be there.
John Beck joining us. I'm curious the experience you had at BYU where things did not go well at all early. Went pretty poorly early. And then at the end you have this, incredible season capped by an incredible game, capped by an incredible play. How much do you look at Jake Retzlaff and see a similar trajectory? Because the 5-game losing streak, he started the last 4 games in that streak, and this year he was 0-4 then, and now he's 8-0. Everything seems to have turned around for him, and I know we've talked and thought about you many times watching this unfold for him.
Well, I always appreciate when I see players push through tough times. At the quarterback position, a lot of the times, you have a lot of things that are outside of your control. The one thing at quarterback that does happen is when you do make mistakes, it's easy to spot. It's easy to see. They're noticeable. When you make a bad decision and the ball gets turned over, it's easy to point the finger at the quarterback and say, what's that guy doing? The things that aren't always easy to pick up, though, are within the scheme because you're dependent upon all the other players around you to be executing their scheme, their responsibility, the way that it needs to be done, so that the offense can be successful. And if there are a number of pieces that aren't functioning at a high enough level, they're making mistakes, that usually impacts the quarterback, and then it's easy to see that he's having a hard game or he's struggling, And so, look, I went through those definitely as a young player. I think Jake has stepped into a starting quarterback role because of his junior college experience with probably having gone through some of those learning curves throughout his junior college days. And I look at last year's BYU team, they had some struggles that they were dealing with kind of regardless of who was the quarterback. When Keaton was there, they were having some struggles. They put Jake in, and I know that there's a couple games there where there was the head scratchers, like, why is he throwing that ball? What's he doing? And, and he had to learn from those. But I got to spend a lot of time with him during the offseason, and he took the right approach, right? I really like it when guys at the quarterback position understand, okay, what is within my control, what's outside my control, what can I work on? I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to improve. I'm going to do the best that I can. And then I'm going to try to help my teammates in other ways, just lift them up as well. Like, how can I be a leader that serves and lifts the people around me so that then all together this unit improves? And I saw him do that. And I think it's really cool the way that the season's been going. And, I know that, look, on the flip side, I'm watching Isaac Wilson, who
That's
I've
where I
known
was
since he
going,
was a
John. That's
teenager.
where I wanted to go.
Yeah, man. And I know Isaac, and I love the kid. And I'm watching him, and I've watched a number of Utah games this year, and I'm like, I feel I know what he's going through. I've felt it. Here's a kid that has a great work ethic, storied high school career. Obviously because of what Zach went through and all of his things, I feel like Isaac's learned a lot because of what he's seen his brother go through. So, you got a kid that there's a ton of potential in there, but you put it in a situation, you put that player in a situation, a difficult situation, their inexperience will be magnified. Their mistakes will feel magnified because of the impact in a game, and I understand what they go through because I went through it myself. And you're just sitting there working, trying to do everything right, and the results don't go the way you want.
Right, amen. I mean, we all saw what you went through early on, and then we saw what you went on later on, and it's a little bit of a storybook fashion. When I look at Isaac Wilson and seeing some grief that he's getting, I point to a kid who was a freshman, and he goes into Rice-Eccles Stadium, and he goes 4 of 18, and he throws for 25 yards. 4 of 18 in 2019. He throws for 25 yards, and right now he not only is the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year in the NFL, he's an MVP candidate, and he won the Heisman, and I'm talking about Jaden Daniels. He was 4 of 18 for 25 yards as a freshman. So freshmen aren't equipped at quarterback to do well. That's just a fact, it seems, right?
Yeah, when I see young players do well, it's usually because of the group around them. And I'm not just saying players, I'm meaning coaching staff as well. Like the coaching staff, the players, even the defense, like the situations he's put in, all of those have an impact on a young player. I think about Jaden all the time. Growing up in Arizona, my family were big Arizona State fans, always aware of who the quarterback is. And he was a kid that was training with us, and he went through his struggles there. And I remember the whole issue where, the teammates posted their stuff, mocking his locker, saying, get this trash out of here and all this stuff. And then the guy goes and wins the Heisman Trophy, number 2 pick, and he's killing it. Nobody's story is ever written in the beginning. The thing that you can't ever determine early is how does he work? What type of belief does he have in himself? How gritty of a person he is? You never, ever know those things. So you don't know how the story is going to unfold. People are looking at chapter 1 and saying, I don't care to read the rest of this book. Look how bad chapter 1 is.
Yeah.
You have no idea the story that's going to be written in chapter 2 and chapter 3, and that's going to make the rest of the book. And so, circling back to the very beginning, sometimes the greatest thing that you can go through as a quarterback is difficulties. Sometimes I bet Jake looks back on those first 4 games that he played for BYU last year, and maybe some of the disappointment and the heartache and those things that might have led him to do some things that, made him a little grittier or pushed him in some areas of his game that he knew he needed to improve. Sometimes just the approach that failure is feedback is the best way you can look at it, because then it gives you something to work from, a place to go from, of where you can improve. And, I just watched the Charlie Ward documentary the other night with my sons, and it talks about him nearly breaking the interception record at Florida State. He almost threw 18 interceptions, which was the record. I think he threw 17 in his first starting season. Did anybody think he was going to go win the Heisman Trophy the next year? I guarantee it, no. And so I love those stories of just the human spirit and work ethic that goes into the work that, and the belief, and then how things can turn well.
There are a lot of Cougar fans who are watching Geno Smith in Seattle, a wildly competitive division, everybody right around 500. They're watching Sam Darnold in Minnesota, a major surprise team there. Don't know they can track the Lions down, but still they're having a good season. And even though he's not a former Jet, Baker Mayfield has bounced around. Look how it's going for him in Tampa. And they're thinking, when does Zach Wilson get another chance? Free of the chaos of the Jets. You have any insight into how things are going for Zach? Because it seems pretty quiet right now as he sits in a backup position in Denver. And the Broncos are doing pretty well with a really, really good performance from their defense.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes those situations are good for a quarterback, right? There doesn't have to be a lot of noise. He just gets to go work, gets to go learn. Here are the things I like. He gets to be with a staff that has been together for a long, long time. They had loads of success with Drew Brees in New Orleans. They have a number of people on that staff that I know recognize the talent and the abilities that Zach has. I think everybody's kind of seeing, the Jets have stuff that they're dealing with, and they have a Hall of Fame quarterback, a great quarterback, and they're still dealing with stuff. So I know Zach likes Denver. I know he feels he's going to be able to grow there. Nobody knows what the future holds because they obviously went all in on Bo Nix. They've drafted him extremely high. They made him the starter from the beginning of the year. Sean Payton, picked him to be his guy. So Zach's opportunity there will come only probably when something happens to Bo, if it does. And you don't ever wish that something happens to a quarterback, but in this league, it's difficult to play an entire season healthy, especially if you're a guy that's going to take off and use your legs here or there. They do have a great defense. They have been improving. Like you said, they have some pieces. And so if his time does come, I think Denver is a spot that some good things could happen for him. And look, Sam Darnold, I live in San Clemente. It's a big deal here because he's a graduate of the high school that my kids go to, and a lot of people in the community here love him and follow him, and it's been really cool to see his resurgence as a starting quarterback in Minnesota, them winning football games, him playing extremely well. It just goes to show in the NFL, so much of what everybody calls your success is dependent upon the situation that you land in. Like, I've been able to be around Sam a few times and do some training with him. Like, he's just stayed consistent the entire time, and I've seen him go through seasons where it hasn't been good, and I've seen him now go through seasons where it's been good. Is he all that different of a quarterback? The answer is no. But is the situation very different? The answer is yes.
I think Brandon Rose is going to get an opportunity on a Saturday. He hasn't played much. Isaac, still a freshman. From a quarterback perspective, what is the type of defense that would give a young quarterback the most problem?
Well, I think the situation of down and distance is impactful. If you can confuse a young quarterback with the looks that he's getting, I firmly believe confusion added with pressure, or what's called simulated pressure. Like, most people just think, oh, young guy, blitz him, he'll make mistakes. You know what? I remember it feeling like if you blitz me, there's less guys in underneath coverage. Like, if you're staying in a 3-deep zone, now I have 3 underneath guys. Sometimes you can just throw into the pressure, and you can help a young quarterback by just saying, I'm going to give you looks, and if you feel pressure, throw into the pressure. The more difficult one for a young quarterback is when you get what's called simulated pressure. It gives the illusion that pressure is coming, and it's not. I think the more experienced quarterbacks are the ones that can identify that. They've seen enough looks, and they understand, okay, this looks like pressure, it's not pressure. They're actually getting to this. So you can't, jump ahead. Young quarterbacks make mistakes when they get confused and they're not seeing the picture clearly. So I think when a defensive coordinator trusts his defense enough to give a look that is deceptive, that's giving you not what you're actually getting, that can be what's hard on a quarterback. The tough thing about a defense is if you have inexperienced players, if you lack athleticism or understanding at some positions, they then get out of position, and then now you're susceptible to some things. And that's why you see in some of the most deceptive defenses, sometimes big plays gash them because they're trying to do sometimes a little too much to disguise, and then they get out of position. But I just think, man, if a quarterback is young and you can get them not seeing things clearly, that's when you really have a chance.
Utah's defense is good. BYU's defense is good. BYU's offense is good. The Utes offense really struggles. Does that make BYU the clear and obvious pick, or are we missing something and it's not that simple?
Well, I mean, I agree with your assessment there, and I think that, BYU probably has an advantage. The one thing that we all know about this game because of all the years of watching it and you guys covering it and, me playing in it and following in it is you just never know until the game starts to unfold. I think the turnover game is going to be a gigantic part. I think it's going to be less about who walks into the stadium of who should win, and it's who goes into the stadium and plays the type of game to win. Who cares who should win if they're turning the ball over? Who cares who has the better offense or defense if they're not making the plays they need to? I think special teams, where does field position start? Where does field position put them in, hey, can we go for it here on 4th down? Do we got to kick a field goal? What are the elements on game day? I think those are going to be the types of things that are going to determine the game. Obviously, the Utah fans are going to be there and do what they always do, and they're going to try to show up in a way that's going to be a factor in the game. And when you're a BYU player, you have to understand this is the environment that you're playing in, and you got to go handle your business and be calm and just approach it one play at a time. Don't let the energy of momentum sway what you're doing, we've seen it before. There's big momentum shifts. One team gets on a roll for a quarter, then it swaps and it goes the other way, and another team gets on a roll. I think Utah is going to have to try to establish something offensively that they haven't been able to do in recent weeks. And so the BYU defense is going to have to make sure that they don't let that happen, because if that starts to happen, then you get momentum. The one thing that I will say that I've seen in rivalry games is whether a quarterback is experienced or inexperienced, there is a flow of momentum, an ebb and flow, and sometimes young, inexperienced quarterbacks, they can catch a little bit of that rhythm and flow, and then they just roll with it. I think back in 2005, Brett Ratliff walked into our stadium largely unknown, hadn't really done much, and had a bunch of these huge scramble plays on like 3rd and 15. And I remember one time it was like 3rd and 22 or something, and I'm talking to the offense like, all right, fellas, like we're up. And then all of a sudden, boom, touchdown. And here's a guy you could say was inexperienced, but the momentum and the flow of the game, and they got into it, and they had some rhythm. And so in this rivalry game, that can absolutely happen.
It seems like every quarterback we mention, you say you have worked with him or are working with him. How many guys do you work with at a time?
Oh, I mean, look, you guys just happened to say a bunch of the guys that I have done some work with. Look, we're a team. Like my group, 3DQB, it's me and 2 partners. So the 3 of us are always working with a lot of different guys. I recently just returned because I was out with a guy because it's his bye week. This time of year, we travel to them on their byes and get some work in if they want. But during the offseason, we've just been fortunate because these last few years, we've had some guys that have really been drafted high, guys that had a lot of success in the NFL. And because of that, there's kind of been this continuous flow of incoming draftees. And so, it's just because of agents, because of other quarterbacks, we've just been really fortunate. And so it's a lot of guys in the NFL and a lot of guys in college football. And it makes it fun for the fall when things are going good, and it makes it tough when it's not going good. You still kind of have to ride the roller coaster, even though you're just coaching them, just because you're so invested in them through the entire year.
You got a 10th grader we should keep an eye on? The next big thing.
I got a 9th grader. 9th grader that's a quarterback. We'll see. He's got a lot of hard work in front of him. So, my lessons that I learned at quarterback, I try to just help him understand the journey. And I try to help him understand kind of the ups and downs of quarterbacking, and quite honestly, like how beneficial tough times are. Like I'm a big believer, the more tough times you can experience at quarterback younger in your career, the better it's going to prepare you when tough times hit you later. Because every quarterback, no matter what level you achieve, you got to ride the roller coaster of quarterbacking, so you better be prepared for it.
There's John Beck. A reminder, join the Zone for extended pregame coverage as BYU and Utah face off Saturday at Roland Hall, 720 Guardsman's Way. Brought to you by Beehive Meals, proud meal partner for BYU and Utah Athletics. What is trending? The headlines coming up next.